for the finals. So again, if any of those times don't work, just let me know.
And are you gonna send out that link sometime this week, or?
Yeah, I already sent it out, but a lot of you guys are on that one email a day.
Oh, okay.
So you probably won't get it because I said that. Somebody else said, "Oh, are you going to send it out?" And I said, "I already did," but I emailed it this morning. But a lot of you, like, did you just get the course email like at 5 o'clock or something like that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so it's there.
Okay.
All right, and there's Alfredo.
Good afternoon.
Hello, how are you?
Okay.
Good. Well, what I did, just to let you know, Katie didn't have access to the PowerPoint, so I pulled it up. So I don't know if you need that too, but I can scroll through the PowerPoint for you if you want. I have I'm doing the Hangout on my phone and on my computer. So the computer me has the PowerPoint playing, and the other one, my phone, is just my picture. So however you want me to do it, tell me to click, Katie. Whatever you want to do is fine.
Okay, great. You guys all ready?
Yeah, hold on a sec. Let me get my timer. I can do timer, Hangout, and phone. I'd be really impressive. Okay. There we go, and there's Ruben. The gang is all here. Okay.
Hey, Ruben.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. All right, so Katie's all set and ready to go?
All right. Well, thank you for that introduction. Welcome to the Positive Coaching Alliance Double Goal Coach Workshop. Now, I say workshop purposely because I'm not up here to lecture at you. We have lots of great coaches here, and I want to tap into that wisdom. We have years and years of coaching experience here, and I want to hear and make sure we get the voices heard of a lot of you here today. Before we get started, there's just a few housekeeping items I want to go over. First off, does everyone have a copy of The Power of Double Goal Coaching? Mm-hmm. Thumbs up if you have.
Yes.
Great, absolutely. And today you're going to leave with this, so if you want to mark up your book, I like to mark up my book, take any sort of notes in here, feel free to do that. Second thing is, I want us to text to sign in. Up on the board here, all right, you're going to text blah, blah, blah. So what that does, that puts you part of the PCA movement. And not only do we have this great book for you today, but there's also lots of other tools that we want to help share with you, including a great website called devzone.positivecoach.org. And I use this. It has lots of different things like a parent pledge, parent guardian letter. I use this with my teams. So moving on from that, real quick, we only have a couple of us here. I want you to go through, tell your name, the age group that you're coaching, the sport, and the number of years coaching. So I'll go ahead and start. As I said, my name is Katie. I currently am coaching a group of U8 girls, U12 girls, U14 girls, U16 girls, and U18 girls, so in soccer. I've been coaching for about 5 to 6 years now, but I've also coached young boys as well. Let's go around. Who would like to go next?
I'll go.
I'll go.
We all want to go.
Kelly, how about Kelly?
My name is Kelly. I have coached basketball, lacrosse, and field hockey, and I'm currently coaching U10 lacrosse.
Okay, great. Someone else?
I'm Ruben Nieves in Clovis, California. I coach boys volleyball 14 and unders.
Great.
Alfredo Zamora from Brentwood, California. I'm coaching right now the under 15 boys.
Wow. And in what sport, Alfredo?
Soccer.
Okay, great. Yeah, I know that one pretty well. All right, so what we do is we work with organizations that want to deliver the best possible sports experience to our children. Now, we all know the positive impact that sports can have, but we also all know that it can go off track and really be detrimental as well. And so when Kelly introduced me, she told me a lot about my background, but she didn't tell and she couldn't tell why I'm so passionate about PCA and the PCA movement. And for me, it has to do with a negative experience that I had playing soccer as a kid. So this is a little personal, but you know what? I can't expect you guys to share if I don't share first. So I'll try to make this quick, this story. I was in 4th grade. It was a hot summer day, going with my, I guess, we were, 10 years old at the time, coaching soccer. I had a female coach, and which was my first ever female coach. I was so excited. And so we all did some wind sprints. We came back together, and the coach, she looks down at my legs and she says, "Katie, you have such hairy legs. Why don't you shave them?" I'm in 4th grade at the time. And, at the time I'm just staring there mortified. But I'm sure none of the other kids really remembered this happening except for me. And I went home and I locked myself in the bathroom and I took one of my sister and my mom's razors and I tried to dry shave my legs.
Ooh.
Anyone who's ever done that on dudes on their face or women on their legs, it is not good. It's painful. And so luckily I have a great mom, a great sister, kind of saw this, said, "Hey, let's wait a few years, we'll help you out." But I never told them this story about why. To this day, I haven't told them, and now thinking about this, maybe I should share this with them. But, this little thing that she said on this hot day in the summer in North Carolina had that big an impact and probably made me a bit self-conscious going through the years, and in soccer especially. And I don't think that coaches realize the power that we have over these kids. That one line can make that kid into a different person, can shape them for positive or for negative. Unfortunately, mine was a negative experience, but I also had a lot of coaches that had those positive influences on me. And so when I heard about the PCA movement, I wanted to be a part of it in order to share this story and to really help coaches realize the impact that they can have on kids. So if you go to page 8 of the Power of Double Goal Coaching, it says a couple of the PCA's National Advisory Board. And now I want to, you guys will probably all know this name, Steve Young, NFL Hall of Fame quarterback. I want to move on and share a video of his telling about his experience as a high school football player in Connecticut.
All right. So play the video?
I mean, I can do more, but that was kind of what I was going to do for my intro.
No, that's great. That's great. Let me click through here for you. So do you want me to jump ahead then to honoring the game?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, it doesn't scroll quickly.
No problem.
There we go. You want to start there, or do you want to start here?
Start there is perfect.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yep.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. All right, now I can see it. Perfect. Thank you. All right.
Just click when you want me to click.
Okay. Thank you. Has anyone ever seen this picture or know anything about this picture? Just a raise of hands. Oh, okay, great. Ruben, what do you know about this this picture?
That's the girl in the red. She hit it over the fence in a college softball game, and she ended up getting hurt and rounding the bases. And the way it played out is the other team helped her complete her home run.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Now, for those of you that aren't as familiar with this story, I'm going to play a quick clip about it. That clip, please.
Okay, clip would play. Blah, blah, blah.
Great.
Okay.
Wow. What do you guys think about this story? Alfredo, what do you think? How does this make you feel?
It's one of those stories that you really can teach the kids. A lot of times they just come up with it because of their upbringing at home, their family situation, and sometimes even the opposite. Because a lot of the kids they grew up in a certain environment, but then they're so mature as they getting older that they'll do the opposite. And I think one of that situation, that's what it was. It just comes out natural. A lot of people think, oh, maybe because of their home. A lot of times it's because it's the opposite of what they have at their home, and they notice that.
Yeah, that's a great point, and it kind of leads me to think, what was Mallory or what were they thinking in that moment? I don't think she was thinking, hey, I'm going to win an ESPY award one day for doing this great great act of kindness, right? So you click, please.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
That's okay. Ah. There we go.
So at PCA, we think this was just a fantastic example of taking sportsmanship to the highest level, in what we call the third principle, honoring the game. And so we remember the parts of honoring the game through the acronym ROOTS. Click, please. All
I'll
right,
put them all out for you, so go ahead.
Okay. All right, what do you guys think? I was going to do it without the click, but what do you guys think the first R here stands for in terms of honoring the game? Anyone have an idea?
Respect.
Respect. That's a great guess. What else could it mean in terms of the people that we want to honor and respect in the game?
Referees.
Oh, referees. Another great one. All right, that's actually going to come out on later with the O in opponents. All right. What else could it mean? R.
Rules.
Ah, there we go. That's exactly what I was looking for. Okay. So what are rules for anyways? Who has an idea? Why do we have rules in the game?
To keep the game under
Structure.
control.
Ruben.
Well, like Alfredo said, to keep the game under control, to give
Safety.
it structure.
Great. Safety, to keep it under control. What about fairness? Does fairness have something to do with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so at PCA, we want to not only follow the letter of the rules, but also the spirit of the rules. Can anyone think of a controversial example in your sport? I know Alfredo and I have them in soccer. In terms of what maybe is a controversial call or a rule that has a bit of a gray area in your sport.
I think in my sport, dangerous checking in lacrosse that a lot of girls get away with doing some things they shouldn't be doing just because the ref's not seeing them do it.
Absolutely. And in soccer, there's a lot of things, maybe tugging on a shirt, a handball, things you can get away with. But we don't necessarily want to get away with them, right? We don't want to bend the rules just for a victory, right? What do you guys think the second or the next O stands for? The first O here. What does that picture tell you? Opponents, absolutely. All right. So we think that worthy opponents is actually a gift, that they challenge us. One of the things that I just can't stand in my own coaching is when another coach will say that the other team's the enemy, right? What kind of lessons are we teaching the kids if the other team is the enemy and that we should hate them because they're wearing a different uniform or go to a different school, right? As we talked about earlier, we want to know how to compete and love to compete, right? But hatred, there's no place for that in competing, hatred. All right, so we mentioned the next O. What's that next O? All right, Ruben, I think you mentioned it.
Officials.
Officials, absolutely. Raise the hands. How many of you have ever officiated a game in your sport? How many of you guys still officiate? Okay, why do you think that is?
Too stressful.
It's very stressful. All right, I was just at an awards banquet for the state of Oregon, and they gave an amazing award to young referees, male and female, and these kids were in high school. And both of them came up, and you had to give a short little speech, and they both said, guys, will you just try to be a little nicer to us? We're just trying to do the best we can. And it made me so sad to see these high school kids who were just amazing human beings being terrified of the rest of us in the room for yelling at them in games and things like that. They make mistakes just like us. What I always say is that it's a great way to teach our kids. What sort of teachable moments do you think you have when an official makes a bad call? your kids on maybe on the sideline?
Well, a chance to overcome adversity. You know, to see the official's call as a form of adversity that you can't control, but you got to keep competing and try to overcome it anyway.
Absolutely. So just right there, Ruben, you took a bad situation and made it into a teachable moment for your players, right, to learn from. All right, and then the last one, or not the last one, next one, T. What does T might stand for?
Teammates.
Teammates. Great, exactly. All right, we need to make sure that we're respecting our teammates on and off the field. And then our last one, S. What do you think that one is? Self. Absolutely. Right? I think this one is absolutely the most important, because if we aren't setting our standards high and living up to those, then the other ones don't really matter, right? So if we believe in honoring the game, then we show respect for roots no matter what. Click, please. Oh. Great. And now, this doesn't just happen, right? Especially with our win-at-all-costs mentality in professional sports. I went into a real quick example, a co-ed adult soccer tournament this past weekend, and we're all playing, and there's just a referee in the middle, and it's getting a little heated, unfortunately, and a bunch of the adults' kids are there standing around, and I live in Portland, Oregon, where there's the Portland Timbers. So everyone is really into their soccer, into that professional sports mentality of yelling at the referee if they get it wrong. And all of a sudden there's these kids, and the referee made a questionable call, these kids start yelling from the sideline. And I just thought it was so indicative of kind of the culture that we've created, that we're at an adult co-ed game and these kids are yelling at a referee from the sidelines. And I thought it was just a fantastic act when I don't think it was the kid's parents or guardian or anything, but my team's goalkeeper went over and talked to them and said, hey guys, this isn't what we want. We don't want you yelling at this referee. He's doing as best as he can. We want you to encourage him. And so this sort of thing obviously filters down into youth sports. Now, we think that you guys are the ones, we want you to create a team culture, and guess what? No matter what, a culture will be created, and you can be aware of that or not and shape that into what you want. So culture, what we think culture is the way we do things here. Now I want you guys to turn around and thank who brought you here today, because they're already trying to create a more positive culture for your club or organization. Click, please. Oh. So as I mentioned, this book isn't just a bunch of theory. There's a lot of real applicable tools that you can use at your practice this week. And one of them, if you go to page 46, go on over to that page, all right, is the self-control routine. So I think this is something great that everyone needs to have, because you need to be prepared. No matter what your intentions of wanting to honor the game, you might be in that championship game and the referee might have called a penalty kick and your team lost. And it might have been a terrible, terrible call. But you need to create your own self-control routine in order to honor the game. So does anyone have an example of a self-control routine you use? Maybe when there's a bad referee call.
I usually take a big drink of water.
Oh, that's an excellent one. Absolutely. Alfredo, Ruben, either of you guys have one?
You know, I tend to look at the other players instead of, tell them. I just kind of like tell the players to do something else, try to get their mind off that last play, off the last call. Because I know they know the rules, they know it was a bad call. So I try to give them something else so they can change their thought to something else.
Absolutely. For me, if I'm really upset with a call, right, I like to do self-talk. I like to tell in my mind that right now I'm being looked at by 10 people on the bench or 5 people on the bench, 30 parents over there, right, and I'm a role model, and I need to think about what I want to say before I say it. And usually by the time I do that, I calm myself down and have a better reaction. Great, but some of the ones PCA mentioned are taking several deep breaths, counting to 10, checking in with an assistant coach. That's one I love to do, talking to the assistant coach about the call. Just talking to someone, venting a little bit with your assistant coach quietly always helps me out. Slide, please.
Okay.
So before we move on from honoring the game, I want to pass along a message from PCA founder and executive director Jim Thompson. And I don't want to mess up his words, so I'm just going to go ahead and read this for you, and I want you to think about it. If you coach long enough, you will find yourself faced with your own big Mallory moment opportunity, maybe even more than once. But for sure, coaching provides a never-ending sequence of smaller Mallory moment opportunities. My challenge to you is, by your actions time and again in those moments, to elevate the game the way Mallory Holtman did.
All right. That's time. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, let me see if I can get this back so I don't hear an echo. That's all right. I'll just read it. I don't know if I'm echoing through your Katie or someone else's, but I can handle my echo. Does everybody hear an echo, or is it just me?
I hear the echo.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if you guys mute, if that would work. But I have too much going on right now to figure out where my echo is coming from. So sorry. Katie, I think you're just getting smoother every time I see you. You really are. You're hitting all the right points. You're talking to us like you just don't seem nervous at all, which is excellent. I mean, you just seem very smooth, and I think just the way you talk, you're assertive, and you're on the younger side. So I think it's kind of hard sometimes for younger coaches to be talking to a room full of experienced coaches. But you have a lot of confidence, and I think that's really a great asset that you have. I loved your shaving leg story. And at first I was thinking, like, where is she going with this? Because how is she going to connect shaving legs? But I think that is such an important story because it has nothing to do with soccer. She wasn't telling you weren't a good soccer player. She wasn't saying anything about your ability. It was something, to really, and I think you focused on the right word. Coaches don't realize the power they have and how much you respected her. And she said something to you that was degrading, and it just, it threw you for a loop to the point where you almost, probably ended up bleeding to death in the shower if somebody didn't stop you. But I think that was it was a great story. I thought it was really good. And I think, when you said you want to help coaches realize the impact that they have, and it's something that you remembered, I thought that was really, really well done. I had a couple lines that you said I just thought were really strong. When you said you introduced the Mallory moment, and you said, she didn't think at the time it was going to win an ESPY. I think that's a really good point to bring up, that she didn't do it because she thought she was going to get rewarded for it. She did it because that's who she was, and that's who she thought she was, and that was the culture of the team. So I thought that was a really good point to bring up. Just the way you said, in rules, like, can somebody give me a controversial example? A lot of times trainers have trouble articulating what they want to get out of the people, and I think you were very direct in your questions, so we knew exactly what we were going to answer, and you just said them very well. So I thought that was great. I also said, there's no room for hatred. It's such a simple sentence, but it's strong. And I'll remember that, because I have girls all the time on my team that are like, oh, I hate that girl. I hate that team. I hate this team. When you say who they're playing, that's part of the culture. There's no room for hatred here. So I thought that was really strong too. I love the idea of thanking the person that brought you to the workshop. I never thought to do that. That's genius. I think that's great. Talk about the culture. Why don't you thank the people that have this workshop set up, because they're trying to change your culture just by bringing PCA here. So I thought that was great. And also the self-talk. I think it was good that you sprinkled in enough of your own examples that we know you've done this and you've lived it, but I don't think you gave too much that made me feel like, I I'm listening to the Katie Hadley show. So I think you did a nice job at sprinkling it in. I don't really have many in terms of things to do better. I know I gave you a lot of feedback the last 2 times, and I just think you did a great job. You capitalized on everything that we brought up before. So I'm really excited. I thought you did really well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think the roots is, I purposely did honoring the game because I think I felt like it was difficult for me to have that slide and talk about each of those things. And I felt myself stumble a little, but I think if I practice a couple more times, it'll be a little smoother.
I thought you did really well. And you also you kept the pace going, which for those, that's a lot of video, that's a lot of words on that slide. So I thought you kept the pace moving pretty well too, and added in questions. Ruben, would you like to give Katie some feedback?
Sure. Yeah, Katie, I think it's great that you chose something that that challenges you and took advantage of the opportunity to work on that. And I thought it was very good. And like Kelly, I noticed you getting stronger and stronger. It's really fun for me since I got to work with you originally in person, and so it's fun to see, for me, to see where you've gone with this. So yeah, hey, I'll just rattle off a bunch of positives. I thought your opening was very complete. You hit all the housekeeping items plus the wonderful personal story and why PCA is meaningful to you, as Kelly pointed out. Just excellent coverage of the content of Roots. I like the story you put in there too. The kids yelling at the ref in an adult soccer game. Did I understand that correctly? It's an interesting observation by you, and I think it does. It gets us thinking about, what are we teaching? I thought that story was also effective. Like Kelly, the pacing was very good, and you made it interactive throughout. You sprinkled in the questions. You pulled all 3 of us into the workshop throughout. When you get to Roots, and you ask us, so the R stands for what? What's going to help the audience, help the participants give you the answer you're looking for is if you first, before you ask them, if you say, Roots is about respect for 5 areas. So you get the respect word out there before because that's what they're going to guess otherwise on the R. And then you can say, so the R is respect for what? It's something that starts with an R. Respect for, doesn't mean they're going to say rules, but you get a much higher chance that they'll give you the answer you're looking for if you set it up that way.
Yeah, I thought that was perfect that you guys didn't guess it right away, because I was like, oh yeah, that's what they're probably going to do, sitting in an auditorium and say respect. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Ruben and I end up giving you answers at these hangouts that we've gotten at workshops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's helpful.
So Katie, then the last thing I want to say, and I know we got to turn it over to the next person. I thought that you're so true to the content and the sample script in a very good way. I thought, but I'm curious, how much of that was you working off the slides and what you've experienced and what you've internalized, and how much of that was you following notes and the written script on the slides?
I would say I tried to keep it pretty close, but tried to sprinkle in like examples, sort of thing.
But what was leading? Were you actually following the script on the slides or?
Oh, notes. Some notes.
Some notes. Okay. Okay. Very good.
Alfredo, did you have anything you'd like to comment on Katie before we let you go?
No, I liked the presentation. It was very smooth.
That's a comment.
Yeah, it was very smooth.
We take comments like that too. Comments aren't always negative. No, good. All right, great. Katie, I think that's awesome. If you would like to stick around for Alfredo or Laura, feel free. The more audience members, the better. But
not really.
It is. It's all good. It's all good. So Alfredo, do you need to see the PowerPoint from me here?
I have it here. I'm
Okay.
trying to work out of my phone and the computer, so hopefully it will work.
Yeah, not a problem.
So I'm going to give it a shot.
Okay. So I will.
So now do I start? I think everybody went to mute.
You can start.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Uh, well, after we did the introduction, the little bio, and we went through the housekeeping items, um, and I was introduced, and I'm going to basically tell the audience or the people attending the workshop a little bit about my story. You know, the bio is almost like a little resume, but for me, I like to hear it from the presenter. And like I said, my name is Alfredo Zamora. I've been coaching soccer for about 20 plus years. Okay, and the reason why I got involved into coaching is to coach my own kids. You know, initially the I took my kids to play soccer, and they were being taught by somebody else, and I always thought I could do a better job. So I started, taking some courses and to get myself better. I knew the X and O's of soccer, but once I started taking the courses, then I found out that it was just more than X and O's. Then I started learning more about the referees and the parents, how to deal with the parents, and then teaching a girl versus a boy. You know, all those emotional parts that comes into coaching both genders. So I had to go out and study a lot more. So I started taking more courses uh, to help me out because I definitely didn't know any. What I thought I knew was very little. Okay. So I started working on that. I went all the way up to my A license score, which is the highest license you can get here in the United States. But that wasn't sufficient. I needed to learn more about the psychology of the players, the psychology of the person itself. So I started looking into more courses, and I came into PCA back in 2002, when he initially was starting over here in Palo Alto. And that was the first year that I started, and I took a course then. Unfortunately, after I took the course, I did like all the other courses, I left it instead of kept up with the training that it was giving. And a couple of years ago, just let me move forward. A couple of years ago, I was asked to move from coaching to helping in the administration of a club, you know, a nonprofit organization, and they needed some help. I had the experience as a coach, but not as an administrator. Okay, and one of the first things that came to my mind when I came into that was a PCA, the Positive Coaching Alliance. I went back, took another workshop, started looking at videos, started going into YouTube, started listening a lot more, and it had changed from what it was at the beginning to what it is now, but it was for the better. Okay, and that was one of the first things that I wanted to bring to this club about PCA. Okay, and the reason I'm here is not so much that I want to become a trainer, but with everything else that is out there, you still have to continue to train. I wanted that information. I don't want basically just the title of being a PCA trainer. I want the information the PCA has besides the workshop. And going to this training is giving me that a lot more. Okay, so it's not just the title to make it look good in the resume, but the information the PCA has that I want. And to be able to get that information, I have to go more into PCA, which is the training course. Yeah. So that's basically my little story and why I like PCA and why I want to get involved to PCA is basically to take it more into the masses, especially in our community, the Hispanic community. They don't even know what PCA stands for. They never heard of it. So it's going to be very challenging in our community. But I think, with the practice and with the training, I think we can make big changes. Okay. Having said that, I'm going to go to the next point. I had to pick out of the 3 principles: the Elm Tree of Mastery, Feeling the Emotional Tank, and Honor in the Game. For this presentation, I wouldn't be saying that to the workshop, but I will get to that point. One of the reasons I picked Feeling the Emotional Tank is one of the most challenging parts for me. Yeah. As a coach is one thing, but living it and doing it day in and day out, it's challenging. Okay, I can do it for a week, I can do it for a practice, I can do it, a couple of practices, but do it on a consistent basis. That becomes the challenging part. Having said that, then I will go to the first slide, okay, which was, I don't know if you guys have it in front of you. It's the two gauges of the fuel tanks. Okay, one is like, it's a full tank. The second one is an empty tank. I would ask the audience, like, which one would you rather have?
What?
And I would ask you, which one would you rather have?
Full tank. Full tank.
Full tank. Why would that be the reason why you would want to have that, Ruben, if I may ask?
Because my car only works and gets me places if it has gas in it.
A full tank, correct. It does, and I think that everybody would like to be in a full tank. I just took a trip to Arizona, 11 hours from California to Arizona, and I couldn't do it in a one tank. It had to be 2.5, tanks of gas I had to fill in. So I was an 11-hour drive, and I was thinking about it. It's like, my season is a long season. The soccer season is a long season. I started back in May. We took a break in November, a little bit in December, and we're still not done with it. Okay? So it's such a long season that I have to think about, how am I going to sustain the kids throughout the whole season? It's challenging for me. Okay, and that's why it's like, this is one of the parts that I like. And I'm sure a lot of the coaches, probably a lot of you coaches, go through the same thing. Why is it, why do we have problems with kids that are in an empty tank? If we had our own players, if our kids are running an empty emotional tank versus a full tank, what can one of you guys give me a specific example of running on an empty tank?
I just think kids that have had a rough day, maybe came from a rough situation at home, and then they show up at practice and they're not ready to be there. They're not in the right state of mind. They're not physically ready. They're just really down and kind of depressed and not ready for what you have to teach them.
True. Somebody else was saying something, but I think you were muted. I still can't hear you.
Laura, we can't hear you for some reason.
We can't hear you, Laura.
We see you and the lips are moving, but no, we don't hear you. Okay, we'll let you work on that.
Try to log off and back on again. That might work.
I'll take Laura's place.
Go ahead, Ruben.
What Laura was saying is that it could be possible that these kids are around others that don't understand what an emotional tank is and that are constantly bringing their emotional tanks down, whether it's their parents, their teachers, their friends. So they could arrive to practice with very low emotional tanks.
You are absolutely right, because my personal experience, a lot of the people don't even know about the emotional tank, like you said. They don't even know that their comments is draining the kid, based on that. They don't even know that, why the kid doesn't want to follow the instructions that you're giving them, because of circumstances that are happening at home, And that's one of the things that, at least myself as a coach, I try to find out from the kids from the beginning, try to find a little bit about the story with their family. What's their family situation, because it definitely, it will make them more coachable. It would help me understand them, how I can help them. Going to the slide, the kids with a almost drained tank, they become, hold on, let me go back to my slide. They give up more easily. They become pessimistic. They're less coachable. Okay. But on the other hand, if we have kids that are with a full tank, they're easy to deal with them. They're more coachable. They're very optimistic. You give them some instructions and right away they pick it up and they continue doing it. versus the other kid that you basically, they're giving up on the practice. They don't want to play anymore. Yeah. What could be some of the stuff that, some of the words that we use that could actually drain the kid's emotional tank? Do you guys have any idea? Can anybody give me some examples of it?
Well, Laura was
still
giving an
mute?
example, but I still can't hear her. I think what she was saying was when kids get yelled at, yelling at kids, especially like if they make a mistake or something.
True. Yes. Anybody else?
I was at a game yesterday, and I heard 3 parents in one play say, "Come on." That's all they said. It was a bad play, and they said, "Come on,"
True.
in a negative tone to their voice.
Anybody else? Well, Laura's still in mute, huh?
I was gonna say just the tone of anything you say. I mean, you could make "good job" sound sarcastic and mean something bad. So.
Right, the tone of voice or your body language. Do you really mean it when you say "good job," but yet we're making a gesture? It's like, oh, he really didn't mean it. He really didn't like that. Yeah. But on the opposite, what can we do to fill the emotional tank of the players? Any examples?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, now we can. There we go.
You can do verbal, non-verbal.
I with my kids, as you were saying, Alfredo, that the year's so long in soccer that I have a fun practice during Halloween where they all dress up to help fill their emotional tank.
That must be the under 6, under 7 time.
Nope, I did it in college with my
Right.
when I was in college, and so I've done that with my U14 girls and U12 girls now.
Yeah, girls tend to be a little more into, you can get them to do a lot more of that stuff. I was coaching girls for the last 5 years, and it was easy to go out there and play with them. With the boys, they get into a 14 or 15-year-old stage, they think they're so adult, they don't want to do anything fun anymore. Yeah.
Well, Alfredo and Katie,
Yes.
one of my highlights at Halloween each year is I get texted the team photo of Penn State men's volleyball, collegiate men's volleyball, one of the top teams in the country.
Yes.
And every Halloween practice is in costume, and then they send out the group photo. So evidently there's a college women's soccer team that does that, and there's a college men's volleyball team that also does that.
And that goes into basically developing a culture when the team. Somebody had to start it, and he had to continue with the same process because the players liked it, And a lot of times you're going to be the first one to get it started. Building the culture. It's going to be hard at the beginning, but if you teach the other coaches, they will follow, and before you know it, they'll be like Penn State or one of the other programs. That's something that looked very childish at one point. Now it's an awesome practice. That other players can follow. I look at what the Warriors are doing right now over here in the Bay Area. You tend to read about what does Steve Kerr change to change the mentality of the players to play better, and it's like, well, they're having fun, they're acting like little kids. I went back to the basic. It's nothing. He's not doing nothing extraordinary. He just went back to the basics, started having more fun, and the players bought into it after a while. And now look what they're at. And it's just, to me, it's just, like PCA says, developing the culture. It has to start somewhere. And from then on, you move it. Same thing with the kids, draining the emotional tank. It starts somewhere. It's been done for many years. They've had that culture of draining the kid through sarcasm, through criticism, the corrections that they give the kids, especially when you get at the competitive level. Is just changing that same words, changing them to praise. Yes, he's going to make a mistake, but can we switch the word that we're using? Good job. Can we add a good, positive, body language with that? With everything else, it's just going to take practice. It's not going to happen from one day to the next, especially with this, learning about PCA. And hopefully you as the coaches will continue learning. because this is not going to change with just one workshop. It's going to take an effort, a deliberate effort from each one of us to be able to continue with the same culture, just to change the culture. PCA has, I think, branches through most of the states, and one of the goals is basically being all over the United States and almost in every city, for the same reason, just to change the culture, because the culture that we have so far is the negative type of culture that we have, that we've been coaching on, that I've been coaching on, because I am guilty of it myself, and I continue to do it, because that's why the reason why I'm taking this course, that's the reason why I attend the workshops, because I need the practice. The more I do it, the easier it will get. It doesn't mean that tomorrow when I go to the practice with the kids, I won't go to the criticism, emptying my own kids' emotional tank. It's just a matter of practicing and continually doing it. And how do I do that? One of the things that, there's a magic formula that PCA has, is not so much magic, is basically done with studies. Can anybody tell me what's, a ratio that we have with the kids, positive to negative, negative to positive? Do you guys have any idea?
2 to 1?
That's a good one.
I'm gonna say 3.
3 to 1. Laura?
2 to 1.
2 to 1. Anybody else?
25 to 1.
25 to 1. That's even better, Ruben, huh? Yeah. Well, actually, the right formula based on research is 5 to 1. Not that the 2 to 1, the 3 to 1 are not good, but the 5 to 1 has been, based on the studies, that is the one where the actual players, the person actually thrives. 2 to 1 is good, and I believe that's one of the ones that PCA had back in 2000. They used to call it the sandwich method or something like that. Two positives to a negative or something. I haven't heard it. I don't know if it changed, or I think maybe it went to this one, to 5 to 1. But I remember that's what one of the things that stuck to my mind. Do 2 positives to a negative every time you had a correction. To me that was easy to follow. Now I really have to think about doing the 5 to 1. Before I was thinking is like doing the 5 to 1 verbal, but it doesn't have to be just verbal. It could be a body, it could be a gesture, any of those little things, just to fill the tank of the player, and it makes it a lot easier. But that's one of the things that you have to practice the most, because it's not easy when you've been practicing on the opposite culture for the last 20 plus years. Now you have to switch it. But it takes a deliberate effort. And to me, it's like I've always had to be thinking, like Kelly was mentioning about the calls with refs in the previous conversation. Just yesterday when I had a couple of games, I had 3 bad calls from the refs. And I had to be conscientiously thinking about the players. It was like, hey, move them away from that. Tell them something positive, because they started yelling. It's like at the refs already. But if I change their mind right away into something else, and if I give them positive feedback, then they'll forget about that and they'll continue playing. So it goes back into that, but it has to be a deliberate effort. You constantly have to be thinking about it, and that's why you constantly have to be studying. Listening to workshop, listening to video, going to YouTube and listening how are the other players doing it. And it kind of makes it difficult when you want to move into how do I teach that to coaches that are so ingrained that they have to win. Well, then I bring him back. It's like, what do you think Phil Jackson was doing? What do you think Steve Curry is doing right now at the highest level of professional sports? I read about other coaches that are, at the Premier League level. They're doing the same thing. It's just they get better on the long run if they're more positive with the players. But it starts somewhere. It doesn't start, all of a sudden you're going to change it. No, it takes a deliberate effort. You have to be moving forward, and the magic ratio, it doesn't just work if you try it with your own family, it probably will work, and it will work, but they, okay, and I think that was my last slide.
Yep. All right. Well done. That was good, and you still had a few minutes to spare.
I still did.
Yeah, which is good. It's good that you got through that. All right. How'd you feel? That was your first time going through it because you didn't have a
Yes.
chance to do emotional tank.
I
So
missed the practice one. I missed that week, the practice.
yeah, well, this was practice. I think this was good practice. Yeah, these are all still practice today. So I think for the first time out, you did a nice job. I think
I lost you, Kelly.
I think your desire to be better really comes through. I don't know where to look. I'll look over here. I think it really does. It shines through that you want to be better and you want to do better for your community. And I think that's really evident in the way that you talk. And I think it's great the way you brought up that you were involved with PCA years ago, and then you were searching and looking for something, and you discovered it and said, "This is it. This is what we need." So I think if I were in your audience right there, I would see value in that right away. I thought that was really great. Some of the other things that I really liked, I liked the way you said, even about E-Tank, like, this is a challenge for me. This is a challenge to do it consistently. I can do it every once in a while, but having to stick with this all the time, you shared the importance of it on a consistent basis. So I thought you did well with that. I like how you said, you brought in developing a culture into the principle of the emotional tank. I think you almost went a little bit too much. It was almost taking the E-Tank in a different direction, but I think it's important the way culture really is the most important thing off the bat, and you kind of worked it in. You took a comment that someone made and you build on that and said, okay, what you're talking about is building a culture. So I think it was good. That part of it, I think you got a little off track of the exact emotional tank, topics. But again, I think it is important to bring up culture as well. I think you also, a lot of the things that you said, I was like, oh, this is great. I just wanted to give a little bit more. So when you said, like, it's not just good to say good job, I would have wanted to go, if I was in your audience and I wanted to see how to get better as a coach, I wanted to know, what do you want me to do? So it was great that you brought up, it's not just good to say good job, but tell me what to do. Instead of just saying good job, okay, well, let me tell you what else you could do. We want you to be truthful and specific in your praise. Instead of good job, say great footwork, good hustle, good defense, good, whatever it is, tell them what to do. So I would have liked to see you go a little bit further. I guess some people stick to the slides too much. And I think in that specific example, I'd like to see a few more examples from the actual tools that we use in there. So the other thing, just a couple of things, and this just comes with practice as well. I heard you say a couple times, like, I think, or probably, or maybe. And if you're going to be delivering this message to your community and you want it to be a strong message, I don't want to hear that I think we have branches all over the United States. I want to hear that PCA just opened the 15th chapter in New York City a month ago, and we're launching, 6 more or whatever, however many, I'll give you the numbers. But I want you to be specific. I usually say we have 15 chapters throughout the United States. Our goal by 2020 is to have 26 chapters. And so we are all across, and there's a map, you'll be able to see the map that has them all across the United States. But be strong in your conviction, because we're the largest character sports education company in the world. So, be strong about it. I think that was just one of my critiques. The other thing too, when you're talking about the magic ratio, and I picked up that you said, well, it's not magic. And I think it is magic. The research has pointed to the fact that when you hit 2 to 1, it's good. When you hit 3 to 1, things are also better. When you hit 4 to 1, they're better as well. But the research that was taken from marriages and students and athletics, once they've hit this 5 to 1, once all of the research has hit the 5 to 1 and higher, the kids' behavior and performance has changed. They were able to push through things and work harder and accept criticism better. So that number, that's why we call it the magic ratio, because when they hit that 5, it was like, whoo, that's the number. That's the number where behavior changes immediately. So the criticism sandwich, as you pointed out, it's not really, it was the old way or the new way. We still encourage criticism sandwiches, but if I was going to do a criticism sandwich to an athlete, what type of tank filling tool am I doing? Is that verbal? Is it nonverbal? Is it listening? What is that if I just do a criticism sandwich?
It could be a combination.
Right. Most likely, though, the criticism sandwich is just verbal.
Right.
Because when people come out, they say, you did this well, you need to work on this, but good job doing this. So I use the criticism sandwich, but that's just verbal. Add a nonverbal in there. Add a high five. Add a facial expression. Say the player's name. These are all things that can up your ratio, not just verbally. Okay. So, but I think, as I said, I think for a first time through, you did a nice job. There's a few things I'd like you to tighten up, but I like the way I could feel your passion, And I think you're very relaxed as a presenter, as a facilitator. I think you were very relaxed, and I think that's good. So if we can just get it to, be a little bit tighter and maybe change your energy level a little bit, I think you're going to make a huge impact on the community out there.
Thank you.
Yep. Ruben?
Yeah, I'll start with what Kelly finished up with, your poise and calm demeanor and the confidence you project. I think that's really a good foundation for you, Alfredo. I thought there were a lot of wonderful things you did, Alfredo, including the two main stories. Your personal story at the beginning, in the opening, I thought had a lot to it. But I think you make 2 points there, 2 key points, and maybe there's a way as you work on that opening story to make these points even stronger, stand out even stronger. One main point I took is that I'm watching my kid play, and I'm watching the coach, and I'm thinking, oh, I can do better than that. And then when you started doing it, you found out it's not as easy as I thought. Okay, that was one point that I took, and I think it's a valuable point. Mm-hmm. 2 is that, and I've never heard a trainer, maybe I don't remember another trainer presenting it this way, that one of the reasons you wanted to be a trainer is to learn the principles and tools even better for your own coaching. That yes, I want to be a trainer, I want to share this with other people, but more than anything, I want to be this kind of coach, and the best way to be this kind of coach is to become a trainer. So I love that story, and then I like your your shorter story about a season is like the long trip, the trip to Arizona, and how you're going to sustain your team over the course of this journey. So let's see, and another thing I think you did really well, Alfredo, is for the coaches that really all they care about is winning. Well, even if that's all you care about, fill emotional tanks, because it's going to help you win more. So I like that point, that even if you're doing it only to win, then do it. It's interesting that Kelly said, talked about the magic ratio, and because what I understood when you're saying, well, it's not magic, I understand, Kelly, PCA presents it like it is magic. What your point was that, but it's based on research and science, and so I thought the way you made the point worked for me, that this didn't just fall out of the sky. It's based on science and research, and it's proven to work. So I thought that's what you were saying. So, and then the last thing I want to say is the 5-to-1 ratio mm-hmm. doesn't have to be right now in this moment, and then in the next moment of coaching, and then in the next moment of coaching. It's a target. It's over time. That's why the criticism sandwich can be a tool. Mm-hmm. In part, what Kelly said, you can add nonverbals to it so that it's more than 2-to-1. But even if it's just 2-to-1, mm-hmm. it's part of the coaching you do over the course of the whole season, and you're gonna supplement it with lots of other tank filling. Alfredo, does that make sense? The 5-to-1 ratio?
No, it does make sense. See, that's okay. The entire reason why I'm saying, if I take this course, if I'm going through this, that's when I learned that. That workshop is not going to give it to me. This stuff will.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. It gives me a little
Excellent.
bit more, or what,
Excellent. Alfredo, I think you're doing wonderful things with this, and I'm glad you got your first practice in, and then you'll be able to do another one next week with us. And so you're on your way.
Now I'm stressed out again.
You don't need to be stressed out, because you're doing well, and if you were stressed, don't show it. So, okay, I'm done, Kelly.
That's okay. I just wanted to see if Katie or Laura had anything to add to Alfredo.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I agree with Kelly and Ruben about the always bettering yourself. I thought that was really awesome what you said, and also about you can't just do it overnight. I think both of those points I'd like to take and use in mine, but one that they didn't mention was that you acknowledged our comments. and didn't just move on from it. You kind of said just a brief sentence about it or tried to connect it to yourself. And I think that's something I struggle with, of being able to think on your feet and actually listen and respond rather than just, okay, great comment, move on, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would like to also add, I think Ruben or Kelly mentioned this, but you talked about the sustainability and how long the season is, and that this is, not a sprint, it's more of a marathon, and it's a long trip, and that you're trying to fill the emotional tank over the whole season, not just this week, and I liked that.
All right. Well, thank you. We've got a lot of tools now. We got a lot of things to jump off of to improve. Not to stress you out, Alfredo, but yes, this was practice. Next week is where you would do it for the final of the course. So you can do the emotional tank again, or you can choose another principle. If you'd like to practice another principle for us instead, you're welcome to do that as well. The more reps you get, the more practice you get, the better you get. So yeah, feel free.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So Alfredo, I was going to say Alfredo and Katie, feel free to stay on, or if you have to go, we understand too. I think Pam's going to join in as well. So great. Yep. Laura, do you need the PowerPoint up? Or are you okay?
I'm okay. I have 2 quick questions.
Yeah.
Actually 3. Did the 20 minutes include the kind of handover intro?
No. The 20 minutes is, that's why I said kind of like 5 for the intro and then 15 about left or.
Great. Okay.
Whatever. Yep.
And then I had a question about, so I'm doing Elm Tree.
Yeah.
It's the video and then the optional slide and then another video.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be possible to put the 2 videos back to back?
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to do mine that way and then also do the optional slide, but do that after the second video.
Yep, that's totally fine.
Want me to show the videos?
I don't think you have to. No, we've already seen them. So you can just say the video played, the video finished, whichever. That's fine.
Okay. Great. Okay. Then.
So I'll take this off so it doesn't distract anybody. Not that it's very distracting, but okay. I'll just leave it at that. How about that? Okay. All right, and I will. Hi, Pam. Thanks for joining us. Hi. All right, so we would introduce you, the partner would introduce you, and then whenever you're ready, let us know.
Okay. All right. Hi, thanks so much for having me here. I'm so excited to be a part of your learning as a coach, and I look forward to engaging in conversation today throughout the workshop. I'm here tonight because I attended a PCA workshop as a teacher coach for Denver Public Schools, and I was so excited to hear about this alliance and to hear that there was a group of people who was working on something that is a huge passion of mine, and believing in this character education and creating better people through sports. So I've coached tennis and cross country and soccer for a number of years and coached anywhere from age 3 to 85. Mm-hmm. And I'm also a middle school teacher. And I have found that the principles of PCA are really important and help both in my classroom as a teacher, but also as a coach on the tennis court or soccer field. And so I'm excited to have this conversation with you all tonight and to lead you guys through some research-based principles that we can talk about and figure out how they fit into your life as a coach. So tonight I am going to focus on the elm tree of mastery for my demo time.
Okay.
Great. All right, so I would love for all of you guys to take about 30, 45 seconds and think about one of your dream players who you have coached. And you can interpret dream player however you want. It's just a little bit of quiet time. See some nodding. Looks like you guys might be ready to go. Mm-hmm. Pam, do you want to share a little bit about your dream player and what makes them a dream?
I think probably the biggest thing was that she was coachable, despite being probably the most talented player on the field.
Great, coachable.
Just always looking for that next level to go to.
Great. Alfredo, do you have any thoughts?
think the one that I've had that always had the easiest and the most fun coaching is the one that were very uh, I get, the ones that I remember that they would just nothing would bother them. Even the refs were making a bad call or anything, they would just keep on going. And so like, okay, if I didn't get it this time, I'll get it the next time. And they would just continue doing that. So it was so easy to coach him and so easy to watch him. It was fun to watch, because they didn't let the other stuff bother, and they would do the opposite just to bother the other players or to bother the other coaches. And they knew exactly what they were playing with the mind of the other coaches and the other players. And they would just have so much fun. They always had a smile on their face, whether they were winning or losing.
Great, thank you. Kelly?
I had this little girl named Quinn, and she was always up for anything. Everything was, yes, coach, sure, coach, whatever you need, coach. Okay, coach. I could put her in goalie or I could put her in attack, and she would say, okay, great, whatever, that sounds great. And again, a lot like Alfredo's, she was just fun. She was always fun. Every drill I ever presented, she was like, okay, this is great, let's go do it. And she was like the first one in line. She was just always in a good mood. It was very cool.
Great. Ruben?
What a great question, and I immediately started to think about all the players I've coached over the years, and the guy that jumps out is a guy by the name of Joe Burkhart. Not the most talented player I've ever coached, but he was classy. He always worked hard, no matter what the situation, and he always put the team first.
Great. So I hear coachable, I hear smiling, having fun, I hear willing and able. I hear work ethic from a few of you guys, and actually Ruben called it out that it's not necessarily the most talented, and no one else mentioned talent. So today, as we think about this principle, one of the things that we're going to be talking about is what it means to be a coach who focuses on mastery. And all of the things that you guys talked about with your dream players are part of this principle, this elm tree. And so we are going to talk about how we can get all of our players to be dream players and what tools we can use to make all of them a dream player. So we're going to watch 2 videos showing clips of coaches talking to their team. And what I want you guys to think about is, would I want to play for this coach and why? So I'm going to show the first video. You guys have all seen it. And then I'm going to move straight into the second video and have you guys watch that. So I would like for you guys to talk to the person sitting next to you. Who would you rather play for and why? So you guys can talk. Would someone like to share their answer to mock your turn and talk?
I'll go.
Well, I'll go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll go. We both thought we'd rather play for the second coach based on the little bit that we saw there. We have a hard time with the first coach's winning is everything message. He may be great instructor and do a lot of things well, but it seems like it'd be hard if that's the overriding philosophy. Whereas the second coach clearly wanted to win, wants us to perform well, but it's about more than just winning, and so we were more comfortable with the second coach.
Great. So when you guys are finished turning and talking and sharing which coach you'd rather play for and why, I'd like for you guys to look up at the board, and I'm on slide 14, and think about answering the question with which Olympic athletes earn the most medals. Let's just read over that. If you guys think that those who focus on the scoreboard and winning win the most medals, hold up a 1. And if you think those who focus on mastering their sport and getting better, put a 2. Okay. All right, so I see a lot of 2s. Why do you guys think that people who focus on mastering their sport and getting better, why do those athletes tend to win the most medals?
Well, I think mastery is something that you can control. You can control, your touch on the ball. You can control the speed at which you strike it, and I'm talking like soccer. And there's just some things you can't control, but if you can control your skills, your effort, that's going to make a difference for you, and maybe not on the scoreboard, but at least for you anyway.
Great. Any others?
I just think it's less stressful. I think it really takes the stress level down when you can just focus on your game and not necessarily worry about yourself, but worry that a coach is going to be yelling at you if the outcome isn't what's supposed to happen. So I think it calms the players down a lot. It would calm me down anyway.
Great, great. So I hear control and I hear less stress. So the elm tree, the principle that we are going to be talking about right now, talks about how we as coaches can help players feel like they have more control, which will then lower their anxiety, which is what Kelly just mentioned. So we are going to think about two kind of different frames of mind. We have some coaches who are scoreboard focused coaches, which we just identified within the two videos, and then we have coaches who are mastery focused, which Kelly and Pam identified as giving players a sense of control and less anxiety. So the scoreboard focused coach is focused on results, comparing with other teams often, and has this overall sense of mistakes not being okay. And then our mastery focused coach believes in effort, believes that this is all a learning process, and believes that mistakes are okay and learning opportunities. So we're going to start with effort, the E. So ELM, standing for ELM, and it's a term that you can use with your players and teach your players to use in thinking when you are planning practices. So effort, that was something that many of you mentioned when you were thinking about your dream player and someone who puts forth that effort and has that work ethic. As a college tennis player, at the beginning of every season, we always set effort goals. And that's something that you can do with all your players at all levels. So it's not about winning the conference championship. It's about the effort that's put in and what we can control, and having goals around the effort that we bring to practice and bring to games. Learning. Every opportunity is a learning opportunity, whether it be practice, whether it be game. We want our players to be learning from everything, to be the best players that they can be. That growth mindset that we all have so much to learn. I have so much to learn as a coach and training with you guys today. And then the M, standing for mistakes are okay. So how many of you guys have a mistake ritual? And maybe you don't even think about it as that, but there's always something that you do on the field or help your players do when they make a mistake. Anyone here? Pam, you want to share what you do as a mistake ritual?
Sure. It's I just say next play. That's it. Next play, and
Great.
that gets them thinking forward. Not to dwell on the mistake, just next play. The most important thing is the next play, the next touch on the ball.
Great. It actually sounds like that's a mistake ritual that you have as a coach, which is great. And we want our players to have rituals, but we also, as coaches, it's important to remember that we want to send that message that we can learn from every single mistake, even if it's a mistake that we're bummed about. We need to make sure that we are, presenting body language and verbals that teach our players that we can learn from this. So I want you to turn to another partner, someone who you haven't spoken with tonight on the other side of you, and talk about one within the elm tree, one tool that you have used that you think fits into EL or M. So you guys can go and talk. Then I'll bring it back full conversation and do some sharing. So does anyone want to share one of the tools that they've used in the past that falls into one of these categories?
I have one. With my lacrosse team, I had each of them write down their effort goal, and I explained what an effort goal was before each game, and they wrote it on an index card. And then right before the game started, with like 5 minutes until game time, they had to run over and give it to their parents. And their parents had to keep track of how many times they accomplished that goal. So if it was getting low on a ground ball, running through a ground ball, or switching hands, or whatever the effort goal was, their parents kept tally marks and kept track of how many times they did it. And then at halftime, they ran over to their parents first before they came over to our huddle, got the cards, and we all shared them in the huddle for the halftime speech and then at the end of the game, too.
Great, thank you. Yeah, that's a great way to include parents, you, and the team in creating these effort-based goals. Awesome. Anyone else?
Well, I'll share one with you. I think this falls into this category. Most of my career as a volleyball coach, and there's a couple plays in volleyball, probably in all sports, but in volleyball there's a couple plays that if you try really hard at, they don't show up in the traditional statistics. They don't show up in the box score. And so we actually tried to keep statistics on those things. And one of them was when your teammate was attacking the ball at the net, were you in position and ready to play the ball in case it got blocked? Okay? There's no traditional stat for that in our sport yet. But we would, and it wasn't whether the ball got blocked and you actually played it or not. It was whether you were in position, ready for the block. That's what takes the effort. And so I think that falls into what you're talking about. Is it was a tool to emphasize effort.
Absolutely. I mean, can the kids control whether they're in position?
Yes.
Right, and
yes,
that shows their effort. So 100%. Thank you, Ruben, and thank you for taking a risk and seeing if that fit in with Elm. Absolutely. So we have some research from Stanford University done by Robert Roger, and he found that when coaches are focused on mastery, our Elm tree, on effort, on learning, and this belief that mistakes are okay, their players' anxiety went which way, do you think? Up or down? Down. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So anxiety went down. And what about self-confidence? Yeah, up. Absolutely. And so you guys, when you talked about the two videos, one thing that you guys pointed out was you wanted something that you could control. And the second coach gave you this feeling of control and that you can do it even if it's a tough feat. And that is what this research is showing, is that when, as coaches, if we give this sense that it's all about Elm, and that's what we care about as coaches, then the players feel like they have more control and that they can actually, they're ready for the task at hand. So think back to that dream player that you had in mind. Give me a thumb up if you feel like they hit the Elm tree in some capacity, or a thumb down if you feel like they don't follow the Elm tree. Great. So our goal is to get all of our players to use these tools of Elm, and so that they can all be dream players of ours. So as the slide shows, when we help give our players this feeling of control, they in turn work harder, and they also stick to it longer, whether that be throughout the season or whether that be season after season, and wanting to come back and wanting to work hard because they feel like they are in control of that. So there's a scenario up on the slide, and I would ask someone to read it, but since we aren't in that setting, I'll read it for us. So it says, Jesse hangs his head every time he misses a shot, and as a result doesn't get back on defense. What, I'm going to change this, what would you do? Would you keep him in the game, or would you take him out? So if you are going to keep him in the game, I want you to go to this side of the room, and if you're going to take him out, I want you to go to this side of the room. So you guys would go where you believe. Ruben, why would you keep him in the game?
Well, I went to the side where I would take him out of the game.
Great.
So can I answer it that way?
Yes, please do.
Okay.
Someone else prepare for the other side.
So Laura, the key for me is every time he misses a shot, every time. So if it was Jesse hung his head the first time he missed a shot and didn't get back on defense, I probably keep him in the game and I give him some feedback from the sidelines and maybe look for an opportunity at the first time out to take him out. But because it says every time, you know what? I got a problem with that. And so I got a bunch of players on my bench that I know want to be out there and want to give it their all, whether they make the shot or not. And so Jesse's going to come and sit by me for a little while, and I'm going to, first of all, make sure Jesse knows why I took him out. Didn't take him out because he missed. Took him out because he's not trying hard. And that his mistake is preventing him from trying hard. And then I'm going to let Jesse know that when he thinks he's ready to give it the kind of effort that this team expects, let me know, because I want him back out there.
Great. Thank you for acknowledging that you would have that conversation. I think that that's an opportunity that sometimes as coaches are missed opportunities, and then we lose out on that learning experience for the athlete. Is there anyone who would keep him in the game?
I wouldn't.
Why do you think no one's on that
I would.
side?
I'd keep him in.
Okay, why?
I would keep him in because I think it's important for Jesse to know, because I think not being able to talk to him, especially in a sport like a field sport like soccer or lacrosse, if I take him out, his first thought might be because I messed up and because all the other players on the field wouldn't be able to hear my explanation to Jesse, even if I explained just to Jesse that that's not why I'm taking him out. I think the message sent to the other players on the field would be that Jesse missed a shot and coach took him out. So I'd be afraid that I'd be sending the wrong message to the team. So I would try to do a mistake ritual. I would try to say, keep going, keep it in, brush it off, flush it. You know, you got it back, Jesse. And if I could get down to the side of the field where I could actually talk to Jesse, I would make sure it was clear that he knew that, you know, you got to get back in, ready for the next play. You know, I would work on that, but I'd be afraid to take him out to send the wrong message.
Great. I think you guys are both bringing up a key point, which is communication. And both sides of this room can be right and can do the right thing for the player. It's all about execution and communication and how you communicate it to maybe not just Jesse, but to the whole team of this is a learning experience. So if you guys pull out the books, on page 21, there is a toolkit for ELM, and one of those tools being the mistake ritual, which Kelly just brought up. Pam gave us some examples as well about mistake rituals that we can use with our kids, players. But the book also has some other tools that we can use to help reinforce the ELM tree with our players so that every single one is one of our dream players.
All right. Well done. All right. Laura, I loved it. I thought you did it. I thought your intro was very strong. I like the way you brought in the different sports. That was the timer. I love the fact that you coach 3-year-olds to 85-year-olds. I think and I'm thinking, man, how many soccer players are 85? I'm thinking tennis. That's got to be it. Because I got my butt kicked at a lesson by a 75-year-old. But also in teaching, I think it's important that you brought it in, that these principles apply to your life as a teacher, as a lot of people say as a parent, as a spouse. So I thought that's great to bring that in. It's interesting that the question that you said, share your dream player, is a question that we use in our high school coach workshops called Developing Competitors. We have the coaches think of the hardest worker they've ever coached, the most inspiring and the classiest player. And I have never thought to ask youth coaches that question. We use it all the time in our other workshops, but I like the way you just said your dream player and that you kept circling back to it. Because I think you could use that question, share about your dream player, and you could use that in any principle. You could use it for Elm Tree, you could use it for Emotional Tank, you could use it for Honoring the Game. So I think that's a really great question to kind of hold your whole workshop together, and the way that you put it, how can we make all players dream players? I think that makes me like, yeah, man, I would love a whole team just like this girl that I had. I think that'd be great. So I really like that a lot. And the videos back to back, I think that's a fantastic way to do it. I've seen other trainers do it that way really, really effectively. Which coach do you want to play for? Another question that has followed up is, the way you're coaching right now, would you want to play for you? I always thought that was a really powerful question that made me think like, ooh, gosh, maybe not today, but yesterday's practice was good. So I thought that was great. I loved seeing your teaching skills in there. I love, I talk teacher, so I get that. It's little nuances that, other people don't pick up that aren't teachers, but you did a lot with, really appreciating answers, thumbs up, thumbs down, pair share, all that stuff. It's going to come in handy more than you realize when you're talking to a room of adults. Just throw in every teacher trick you have because it's so needed. And even the way you asked questions was very clear that you wanted an answer. So I thought that was great. The one thing that I had, you did mention a couple other words that we know, PCA world knows, like growth mindset, mistake ritual. Make sure that if you're using that term before you explain it, people might not know what it means. So like you kind of threw in growth mindset, which I think was good. You might want to just add
Also
one more.
keep the talk.
Yeah, exactly. Just throw in another sentence because I think growth mindset's important to bring up. Just make sure everybody knows what you're talking about. And the other one, what did I say? Oh, when you brought up in college tennis that your coach made you write down effort goals, I was waiting to hear what one of those goals was. So, you know, you brought it out of us later, like when you asked, does anybody have an example of elm tree? But I think if you're going to give an example from college tennis, I'm like waiting to hear like, okay, what was it? Anytime I'm a youth coach and I'm getting advice from somebody that's been a college player or a college coach or played higher than me, I'm jotting down ideas. So make sure you just gave one example of that. And again, I like the last part where you said, you know, communication and execution. It's not about being right and wrong. It's about how you communicate and can you execute it well. So I thought that was really a nice point to wrap it up with at the end.
Yeah.
Yep. Ruben?
Yeah, Laura, I very much enjoyed it. I thought that your opening piece, which was about 1 minute long, was effective and will blend nicely with the rest of the stuff you have to do in the opening of the workshop. You know, you've got some housekeeping things. You want to get to the coach that had the greatest impact on us and give us a chance to get our voices in the room within the first 5 minutes of the workshop. So the fact that you were able to put your personal piece and why your personal why PCA and do it so efficiently, I think will work really well. Yeah, I love the dream player question. I mean, as you can tell, I immediately was engaged. I pictured my dream player. Was happy to be able to talk about him. And I like your pacing, and I like the interaction. You know, the conversation and the constant back and forth and pulling all the voices into the room. So I thought it was very well done. The one idea I have, and it's a question for everybody, okay? It's a question for Pam, Alfredo, Kelly, and you, Laura. With the Jesse hangs his head scenario, what would you say are the main point or the main points we hope will come out of that scenario? In other words, when we say what would you do, what are we hoping that people will say? What would we like people to say?
I'd like to hear from others, but I can share mine.
You can go first, Laura. That's okay.
I mean, I wanted to just open up the conversation and really kind of that last like message that I left with is like, there's not necessarily always a right or wrong. It's about how we do it and how we communicate. I mean, at least that's my belief. I don't know if that fits. So for me, it was about opening up kind of the conversation.
So with a conversation with the player or a conversation with the coaches in the workshop?
With the coaches in the workshop.
Okay. Good.
Hopefully,
clearly, Laura, you're absolutely right. That is a clear objective of any of our scenarios, is to get people to think and be open-minded, and yeah. So for sure and to have a conversation. How would someone else answer that question? What are the key points we hope the scenario will draw out somehow?
Well, I would say that you mentioned communication. I would say there has to be communication with that player when they come off. I've seen coaches pull a player off, and the player just walks to the end of the bench and is, out of action for 10, 15 minutes, and the kid will say to someone next to him, "What was I doing wrong?" It's always like, "What was I doing wrong?" So I think, the way I do it is I say, "Go get a drink of water and come back, and let's chat for a second." And then I will give them very specific positives, and then kind of throw in, my little criticism as to perhaps why, I pulled them. Like, are you feeling okay? You seem like you're dragging a little bit. Do you need some water? Is the heat getting to you? And then pump them up a little bit and say, you're going back in. Just be ready. So I would hope that communication would be between the player and the coach. Because so often I see it where the kid just walks down to the end of the bench and they're non-existent for 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Pam. So Laura and Pam, you both use the word communication, and I agree with you. And I think it's communicating these 2 points. 1, missing shots is okay. 2, lack of effort is not okay. So it's a simplification, but sometimes simple is good. Okay, and so to me, that's exactly what has to be communicated to the player one way or another. You can miss shots, you cannot dog it on defense. So and those 2 points go directly back to Elm. Effort is what it's about, and mistakes are okay. That's what I think there. So I hope that adds to what you do with that scenario and how you guide the discussion and where you take the discussion.
Yeah.
That's it for me, Kelly.
Okay. All right. Can you guys hear me? Hold on.
Yes.
Okay. You can hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Laura, Alfredo, did you have any feedback, or Pam?
Oh, I liked her presentation. It was easy to follow. Her tone of voice was very smooth, and she kept us engaged, by asking questions. So I liked it. I wouldn't have fallen asleep on her presentation. It would have been.
That's a good thing. All right. And Pam?
I could definitely tell she was a teacher. The think, pair, share, all those terms, and also, like rephrasing the question to make sure that it was completely understood, or the response was understood, is also a very positive thing. I thought the pacing was great. Animation, variation in voice tone. It was really, really good.
Thanks.
Good job, Laura.
Thank you.
All right. There's a lot of teachers in this course. I really like it. I really have enjoyed it. I really have. I mean, I think there's more teachers, probably there's more people in this course, but there's more teachers in this course than before. And I find myself a lot of courses teaching skills to people. So it's like classroom management stuff that people aren't aware that we've got great phenomenal coaches that want to be trainers, but they don't have the classroom management skills that are just natural for teachers. So it's been really nice to have, at least on every hangout, a couple of hangouts, I have people that actually have teaching experience. And it's a little tiny things, when somebody says, do you all have a book? Or else you say, like, raise your hand if you don't have a book. It's such a little simple thing, but it's like a quick, easy teacher strategy that you learn your first year of teaching. You don't say, who needs a pencil? All right. Well, thanks.
I need to head back out to work, but thank you guys very much.
No, I'm glad you jumped in. Thanks. Thank you. Now, Pam, do you need to see the PowerPoint at all? It looks like you have it up there in the corner.
I do. I'm like trying to multitask.
Okay.
I'll do my best.
Okay, well, it's up to you. As I said, I finally figured out a way to have it on the screen for you guys. So if you want me to put it up there.
That would be great, because then I would be looking sideways.
Yeah, not a problem at all. You just have to, the only problem is it's just a little clunky because you just have to tell me when to click, but it's not that big of a deal.
Okay.
So do you want to start right at the beginning?
I am going to have a little conversation after my intro.
Okay.
And then I'm starting with the slide. Basically, I'm going to recap the 5-to-1 positives to criticisms.
Okay.
And then go from there.
Okay.
I'm doing honoring the game.
Okay, perfect. Let me get this set up here. I think I went back too quick. So hold on one second. My computer is now. When I hit my buttons too fast, it gets crazy. All right, hold on a minute. Now that I told you I have it, now I can't pull it back up again. Can you see the PowerPoint?
I see just a small slide. I can.
Yeah. So if you click on it, it'll get bigger for you. But if you just like put your cursor over top of it, it will get bigger.
Okay.
If that helps. If you want to use your laptop, whatever's easiest for you. It doesn't matter. Some people don't have access to both. That's why I pulled this up as an option.
Yeah. No, I just have a blank screen right now on yours, but I can try mine again.
Oh, you do? You can't see mine?
No, now I got it.
Okay.
Okay, and then just I have to tell you when to advance, right?
Yeah, sorry,
okay,
unfortunately.
Right. So we'll end up on slide number the 5-to-1. Slide number 23.
Okay. All right. So you can just do your intro just based on, we've just introduced you at the workshop. We've read your 3 to 5 sentence bio, and then we've said, okay, let's welcome, Pam Malone to our workshop. And then you would start off. So that when I said 5 minutes, I just want to know what your opening going to look like in the workshop. So let me get this right there. Is where you want me to stop?
Right.
Okay. Super.
Well, thank you very much for that intro. What I'd like to do is tell you a little bit about how I came across PCA, the Positive Coaching Alliance. I'm a soccer coach of 25 years and was at the National Soccer Coaches Convention. And I'm that coach that wants the whole player, not only the physical, the skills and the drills, but I also want to know what's going above the shoulders, what's going on above the shoulders. And I came across the talk, and actually Kelly gave the talk, and I went to probably 10 to 12 different presentations that weekend. And the one that I kept thinking about was this Positive Coaching Alliance. And I thought, I'm going to do a little more investigation on this, looked at the website and said, this is awesome. This is exactly what we need. We need more coaches who are developing young people into, positive, productive adults. And so that's kind of how I came about to be involved with the Positive Coaching Alliance. And I also remember the question that Kelly asked about, who's one of your most influential coaches and why? And that also stuck with me, the one that I gave you in the beginning of the talk. And I started thinking about it, and there's 2 coaches that came to mind. And one was a coach that I actually feared, my college field hockey coach. She was an older woman and just really went by the hard all the time and no excuses. And I really played very fearful. If I made a mistake, I would immediately look and say, did she see me? Oh boy, there goes my starting position. And then the other coach that comes to mind is my high school track coach. And he was one who saw the value not only in the sport of track, but also the value that sport could give to me as a young woman. And came from a single parent family. My mom worked 3 to 11. And so getting to practice, getting home from practice, getting to track meet were all kind of a struggle for me. So we talked about what is a kid bringing to practice, and he made sure that those things were not part of my issue, that I could come to practice and give it my best effort. And I think he saw long term that what I learned from being disciplined, from self-respect, from working as a team, was going to benefit me in the long run, just as a developing adult. So, and ironically, he is my son's academic professor at the college level. So I've had a chance to recap and tell him, what a great job he did with me, and the fact that I'm coaching and been in coaching for 25 years. He says that I'm part of the legacy of his coaching, and he now knows that those seasons back in the 70s were valuable because of how I turned out. And so I kind of take that and think, well, you know what? My coaching legacy is now to keep that going, and that my players will live on and carry this legacy of passion for sport, and what it brings to a young person will live on. So that's kind of how I got to PCA and why I believe in it so strongly.
Love it.
All right, so my topic today is on honoring the game. We just talked about the emotional tank, the elm tree of mastery, and we're now moving on to the 3rd principle, which is honoring the game. Does anyone recognize this picture? It was sent probably worldwide back in 2008. It was a softball game between 2 college teams. It was actually a district championship. Anyone recognize this picture?
I do. Yep.
Kelly, you do. And from what aspect do you recognize it?
I just remember that it was on the news, that it was one of the greatest moments in sports, I think.
You're right. It actually won an ESPY, and I'm pretty sure that the player Mallory, who was the one doing the carrying, had no idea that she would end up winning an ESPY for it. But it is probably the video that we use to demonstrate honoring the game. Um, so we'll play the video for those of you who aren't familiar with it, so you know what we're talking about, and so we'll play it.
Okay. We can skip through it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There you go.
Okay. So when I was growing up, coaches always talked about sportsmanship. You know, don't do this, don't do that. And really what we want to do is we want to raise the bar. We want to talk about the do's in honoring the game. What should we be doing? Raising the bar. And if you look at the word honoring, it's a verb. It means that we're constantly doing this. This is an action verb, that we're working it on a daily basis. So what I want you to think about is your program and kind of what's the root system that you have in your program. Just take a second. What's the root system? And we know that, you know, if a tree is going to stand sturdy, the roots have to go deep. And they have to be embedded into that foundation. So how's this root system in your program? Okay. Well, let's take a look at what roots stands for. So you go to the next slide. We look at the acronym ROOTS. The first one is for rules. Rules are things that we have to have in a game. And why do we have to have them in a game? We'll take 3 reasons as to why we have to have rules in a game.
Safety.
Safety, absolutely. Got to keep everybody safe, no injuries. Someone else?
Fair competition.
Okay, competition.
And fairness. Fair competition.
Fairness. Okay, I didn't hear that. Fairness and competition. Yes, we need to have a level playing field. Level playing field. And then one more.
Some way to determine who wins.
Okay, some restrictions within the game to make sure that it is an even playing field. Okay.
And a way to determine who wins and loses. If you don't have rules, how do you know who wins and who loses?
Exactly. Exactly. So have you ever heard the term rules were meant to be broken? Have you ever heard that saying? I think it's one of Arnold Schwarzenegger's top 10 things for his life is break the rules. Okay, well, you know, there are sports in which we can really find ways to break the rules without being caught. Can you think of one?
I think of field hockey, just hitting the ball, hitting off your foot.
Okay, advancing the ball with your foot, exactly. How about one in football? What would be a rule that you could get away with if you broke it in football and people might not even know that it happened?
Well, it seems like there's holding on every play.
Holding.
Offensive linemen hold on every play, it seems.
And sometimes they'll see just how far they can go at breaking the rules without getting caught, right? Well, rules aren't meant to be broken. Rules are there for all the reasons that you said, safety, fairness, and to determine a winner of the game. So what does happen, though, is when we're in practice, sometimes we let rules slide. Okay? I know in coaching soccer, I do have a rule that says you cannot pick the ball up with your hands. You cannot touch the ball with your hands. If the ball is in flight, you cannot grab it, even if it's going out of bounds. Because I remember one game in which a 12-year-old player in the box, shot taken, and the defender reaches up and catches the ball. And I'm like, people are like, why would she do that? I said, because it's allowed in practice, that's why. So we need to make sure that rules are held up and that are upholded, and we need to refuse to bend the rules. I've even had coaches tell me that they'll buy a officiating vest or a shirt and have players that have trouble with the rules just try to officiate practice and make sure that those rules are upheld and that it is difficult sometimes to make sure that the rules are implemented. So that's the first R. The second one, the second letter is O, and that stands for opponents. And everyone wants a worthy opponent. It's even called a gift. If you have a worthy opponent, it's a gift. Although sometimes you might be in a game in which you look at your schedule and you're like, well, that's a gimme, right? That's a game that I know we're going to win. Or that's going to be one of our reach games. Maybe we win, maybe we don't. It would be, all the expectations would be on the other team. But really what we want to do is we want a fierce and friendly opponent. That's what you want. And the best way to do that is to give it your best effort, regardless of who is on the other side of the field or the other side of the court. Anson Dorrance, he's the UNC women's team, college team coach. He often says that the best way to show that you value your opponent is to get up for the game and give them your best game, regardless of their skill level and your skill level. Because sometimes the game will swing. You'll be like, why are we playing so poorly against this poor team? Well, we didn't show respect for that team by showing up for it. Okay, the second O is officials. Okay, so officials. How many of you are currently officials? Raise your hand, just show of hands. Okay. And how many of you used to be officials? Okay, so a few more of you used to be officials and are no longer officials. Is there a reason for that? A couple of reasons. Why aren't you an official anymore?
Wasn't worth it.
Was it worth it? Worth it as in dollar value? Worth it as in time?
No, the dollars were great. I was 18 years old making $25 an hour. The money was good. It was the stress and the yelling, and I just didn't like it. I would get stressed out before the game started, and I would leave in a bad mood, and I didn't enjoy it.
Okay, understandable. I think some cultures will make it fair game, that officials are fair game. My son just started his first officiating class this weekend, and when he walked into the class, the instructor said, well, I think you've got one advantage. And my son said, well, what? And he said, well, you're 6'4", you're going to look intimidating as you walk over to the sidelines. You're going to get bigger as you walk over to the sidelines to talk to the parents. But it definitely is a position that as coaches, we need to show that we respect. Because in 24 years of coaching, I do not want their job. And they don't want mine, and I don't want theirs. It's something that we need to do to show that we, as coaches, we respect them from the beginning. We even have a team ritual where we will go up and we greet the officials before the game starts, introduce our captains, introduce the coaches, and say, thank you for being here, because it is a thankless job. It is a thankless job. And the thing about these officials is they will make mistakes. They're only human. They will make mistakes. And we almost should have that, as we have a ritual for players and coaches to think about next play, move on, flush it, brush it off. We need to probably establish one about officials as well. They are going to make mistakes, but sometimes the team that complains the most is the one that probably isn't going to get the call that could go either way. I think the more respect you show for the team, the more likely you are that you're going to get the call. Could we ever play without officials? What do you think? Would you play a game that the officials didn't show up for? A show of hands. Would you play a game in which the officials called and said they got stuck in traffic, not going to play, not going to make it? Would you play the game? Ruben?
No. Well, I don't think we can.
Okay.
I mean, it wouldn't be an official game.
All right. But let's say it's a U8, U10 soccer game, and one of the parents steps up and says, well, I'll officiate.
I think if the two coaches agreed, then yes. My preference is to play the game rather than not play the game. I mean, that's what the kids showed up for. They showed up to play and exercise and compete. So I think we're going to try to do everything we can to make it happen.
Okay. But do you agree that they're very crucial to the game?
Oh yeah, we'd rather
they're
have the
very
officials
crucial
there.
to the game.
Whether they're good officials or bad officials, we would rather have them there.
Right.
Yeah.
And we do not want their job. I don't want.
No.
I'm always respectful, and I think in the end, they're giving it their best effort, and we need to respect that with them. Okay. Then we move on to the first T, which is teammates.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. So you got teammates, and we know that teams that work together, teams that work as a unit, teams that are cohesive, are much better at getting an outcome of a game, and they're going to play much better than teams that work as individuals. One of the things that I say to my team is, hey, you know what? It's easy to beat an individual that plays as an individual. It's hard to beat a team that plays as a team. You can beat individuals, but it's hard to beat a team. And I think that kind of puts it into their mindset where, the more we play as a team, the stronger we are. Are there some things that you do that foster that team unity, that team bonding? And they may be things that you do on the field or the court, or some things that you do off the field or court. But what gets it so that they feel like they're together? They're all in and they're one unit. Kelly, do you have any?
We do a lot of just getting to know you type activities, even if it's like a silly icebreaker that has nothing to do with the sport. We do a lot of that, get into groups according to your favorite color, and now switch according to your favorite ice cream, or, where you live, or what elementary school you went to, or anything that can get the girls to know each other outside of just the sport, that they can just have fun. And, we do wheelbarrow races or silly little relay races or things like that, where they can just have fun.
And you said fun twice. So I think that's, that is key in coaching, that there is fun, and teammates that laugh and, find different roles for each other, are going to be more successful in the long run as well. Ruben, do you have anything that you do particularly for team bonding or team unity?
Yeah, I think this falls into that category. Only did this once because it was quite a commitment. Pam, what we did, I was coaching the Stanford men's volleyball team, and we have 6 weeks of preseason training. And we got three main positions: setters, outside hitters, middle blockers. And each week they rotated positions. So the first week of practice, the middle blockers were the setters, and the setters were the outside hitters, and the outside hitters. And we did it, one, because we wanted them to become more all-around players, but more importantly, we wanted them to have an appreciation for how challenging the other position was to play. It was really frustrating for all of us, including the coaches. But that was our attempt.
Okay, I think what you brought up there was basically appreciating strengths and weaknesses about those particular positions, and also strengths that other players might have, that you don't have, that might be a weakness of yours, and even working together, say, hey, you know what, can you help me out? You were awesome at taking those PKs. Can you tell me, what you did to get yourself in that position? And then that's kind of teammates, working with teammates and building up each other, like we talked about in the elm tree of, or in the emotional tank, where, teammates are going to help fill your tank also. So that's definitely respecting people's strengths and weaknesses. And then the S in root stands for self. And this is kind of living up to your expectations, your own expectations, even when there's no one around to see that you're doing it. It's kind of that, character is who you are when no one is watching. But being aware of yourself and how you can contribute back to honoring the game. People might not expect you to do something, and you do, and that can even go back to that Mallory moment. I'm sure that no one thought Mallory was going to pick that girl up and move her around the bases so that she could score that first home run. And so that was something that she took upon herself to do, and that would definitely be honoring yourself within honoring the game. Okay, so I want you to think about the roots that we talked about and what I have is I have an R, an O, T, and S, and they're spread throughout the room, and I want you to go to one of those stations, and so it would be the rules, the opponents, the officials, the teammates, and the self. And I want you to go to one of those stations that you think your team might need a little help in, that your team might need, well, let me say, more growth in. And meet with the people around there just for about 2 minutes. So if you would just go around the room and meet at one of those letters. And if we find that we have, you know, an abundance in the officials category, then you guys can move over to the opponents or the teammates, whichever one might need a little more numbers. Okay? And then I want you to discuss the challenges that your team might be facing. So then okay, and then I'd like to pick one person from each of the groups now that you've discussed, you know, some common things that you've come up with in each of those categories, and then share with us, that spokesperson will share with us something from rules, opponents, officials, teammates, and self.
All right, I'm going to stop you there. That was time.
Okay.
Is that okay? Or did you want to finish up your sentence? I don't want to stop you mid-sentence.
No, that's fine. I was just
Okay.
going to go over like the culture and the way you do things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I think we got a great idea of where
Okay.
you're at. Yeah.
All right.
No, I
And
think
it was
I think you
practice
did fine.
anyway, right? So
It is. That's why we practice. It's also practice for pacing, so you can see how much time certain areas take. I thought you did really, really well, Pam.
Thank
that
you.
was, again, very, very strong. Your teacher skills shine, and that's it really is. I mean, it's really obvious that you're used to talking to people for a lot, and you have the coaching experience to back it up. I think, of course, it's exciting for me to hear that, you know, you went to a workshop that I did and it had a big impact on you. I mean, my tank's full right there. That was so cool when I first met you and you said that, and I was like, wait, I was the one that did that workshop. So I think it's neat, though, to hear, you know, which part of a workshop, not even that I did it, but what part of a workshop did you go to that made you want to do this? And I had the opportunity to do a workshop on Saturday at the organization that I went to, a parent workshop. I've never done a PCA workshop there before as a trainer. I've only gone to them, and it was really neat for me to open up the workshop by saying that, you know, the reason that I'm a PCA trainer is because I sat where you are in your seats, and someone came to me, and now I'm here. So it's neat to be able to do that. I think that I love the way the word choices that you made. I think you were very particular about your word choices, and they were very clear and very simple to understand. So I thought that was really neat. I love the way that you brought up your most influential coach, one you feared and one you loved. I thought that was a really great balance, because I could relate to both sides of it. And I think most of us, when I ask who is the most influential coach, most of us have two that you think of. And you know, in a workshop, you don't necessarily want to blurt out the negative one. So I think it's good that you kind of broke the ice with that. I had someone one time as a trainer say, who is your mentor and who is your tormentor as a coach? And I just thought that term, I've used that now at workshops. So I think that's great terminology to say. And, you know, and even the connection to your son, that you had an opportunity to go back and thank that coach for what they did. I had someone at a workshop also say one time, if you could write a thank you note to that coach that had such an influence on your life, what would it say? Thank you for what? So I thought that was a good question, you know, kind of question for that too. Getting into honoring the game, again, I think you knew your stuff. You had fantastic examples. My only suggestion would be, and I think you figured this out by the pace, that if you're going to have them break up into groups like ROOTS, you don't need to give them a ton of information off the top. You can just tell them real quickly what each of them mean, have them get into the groups, have them talk about challenges, talk about how they would use it as a teachable moment. And then as you go through each one, like I usually get one person to share from roots, then you can add on the information about rules. You know, what are some reasons for rules? Why do we have rules? So kind of explain it as they're in the groups rather than giving them all the top information and then splitting them up. Because I think what's going to happen is they're going to tell you everything you want to hear. Because you just told them that a worthy opponent is a gift. You just told them that we have to respect officials and that you've had a jersey. You know, you've given them all the information. Now you want them to come up with it on their own. I just think it's a little backwards. So that's just my suggestion, and that can also save your time as well.
Gotcha.
But other than that, you know, just a couple things to expand on. You also asked a great question. What's the root system like in your program? I think that's a really strong question, and the only idea I have is let us answer it or let us turn to a partner and talk about it, because I was like, wow, what a great question. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, we just had our coaches meeting on Saturday for this team that I am taking over and coaching who has no root system in place. Wow. Like I was afraid you were going to ask me, and I'm like, what am I going to say? My root system is nothing right now. It's starting at 0. So I just thought it was a really thought-provoking question. You know, might as well ask it. But that's all I have for now. Ruben, did you have some comments?
Yes, I thought it was fantastic. Enjoyed it very much, Pam. I'm going to mention three strengths and then throw out a suggestion.
Not 5-to-1.
He's giving you 3-to-1.
It's not going to be 5. It's not going to be 5-to-1. It's going to be 3-to-1. But I'm going to say it with a smile, and at the end I'm going to go way to go. And
I'm good with it.
So Pam, I like the two examples. I like you giving the example of the coach that had the negative impact on you and the one that had a positive. I thought that worked very, very well. I also first time I've heard a trainer refer to the verb in honoring the game and why that's important. I thought that was very effective. And then I liked how in Roots you were willing to get us up out of our seats and get us moving around and do some do an exercise. Currently it's the third principle in sequence, and so I think it's a good time to do that. My one idea is when you start talking about Roots, introduce the word respect very early on. So honoring the game is about respect for these 5 areas that comprise Roots, and it's respect for, and yeah. So that would be my one little suggestion, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great!
All right. So next week, I don't know if you got a chance to open the sheet, but next week between Wednesday and Wednesday, we're going to be doing the finals, and I'm going to invite Jim Bucci and Nick Sipkis, who are in the Cleveland office, and any other Cleveland trainers that would like to jump on. I know they're excited. 2 or 3 people have asked me who my Cleveland trainers are, because I'm the lead trainer for Cleveland, and I mentioned your name, and they were like, females, yes, females. Because Nick just has so many partners that ask for female trainers, and we just don't have them. So it's exciting to have someone of your caliber that is going to be spreading this message out in Cleveland. So it's good news.
Yeah, Pam, I know you're a gift to your students and the student athletes that get to work with you. I'm telling you, as a PCA trainer, you're going to extend those gifts. You're a gift to PCA, that's for sure. In so many ways, it's very exciting to have you coming on as a trainer.
Thank you.
All right. So if you have any trouble with signing up for that, or if there's a time that doesn't work, let me know. I block some times out, but there's always people that it doesn't work for. So I do have some flexibility within that schedule if you need it.
All right. I think I've already recruited a couple people to join to become PCA trainers.
That's awesome.
Oh.
I'm telling them I'm like, you got to read this book. It's give it back to me though, because I need it.
Yeah, it's great.
So yeah, one's a football coach who is fabulous, great, mentor to me, and then there's another young coach who he and I will just sit and talk all lunch period about, coaching the athlete and how we get the most out of them. We're trying to get the most out of them, and that it's the long run that we're looking for, not just the district playoff or something, but so anyway.
Cool.
That's awesome. I've had people say to me, like, gosh, that's got to be so hard to teach people all these principles and teach people all this information and then have them teach it to an audience. And I'm like, no, the people that we get already know the information. They already have it. They're already living it. All we have to do is translate it into PCA terms. It's really not, it's not a difficult thing to do. They are living it and walking it and breathing it, and we're just sucking it back out of them and having them share it with everybody else.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad I came across you.
Me too. Me too. And I was nervous. Let me tell you, I've never played soccer in my life. And they're like, yeah, you're giving the big keynote speech at the soccer convention. I'm like, really? Okay. So I'm glad you got something out of it. That's good to hear.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, you too.
Thanks, Pam.
Yep.
Kelly, can you stay on to talk about Tampa for a moment?
Sure. No problem. Thanks, Pam.